If you don't ever have excitement hunting elk, you need to stop hunting elk.
As far as I'm concerned, bow hunting for elk is here, and all other bow hunting is right down in this area somewhere.
You know, when these guys shoot an elk, or we come down and they tell us they hit it and they made a good shot, and I just pretty much fall apart.
He's toast. Welcome to Bowhunter TV. This week we're in northern New Mexico with Vince Viegel of New Mexico Hunting Adventures. It's the peak of the rut, the bulls are bugling, and we have some high winds to deal with, but we're after my favorite big game animal, Rocky Mountain elk.
Gonna kind of hug this little mountaintop right here. It gets pretty rocky through here in the middle, so we'll hug this right side. And once we get a little bit more light, we'll try to get a bull to respond. The only reason we're not going to do it now is we've been in here before where we've called right out of the truck, and we've got elk really close and they start coming in the dark, and that's something we don't want to do just yet. So we'll come up here, get a little better daylight, and see if we can't get one going, and then drop in inside this big canyon we got here.
All right.
We'll try to get it done this morning.
Let's do her.
So in this section of the state, guys can expect to hunt bulls anywhere between 270 to about 300 to 320 class. The archery hunts tend to be real good because you're getting the elk in the rut or pre-rut where they're doing some chasing, some looking, and we can manipulate them a little bit with the calls and try to get them in close for our bow hunters.
We use the terrain in a lot of different aspects. You know, when we're hunting with a bull, we're obviously higher up in the mountain. Hunting in the timber, we got the bulls bugling, but we also have certain places down low in the flats where we find a lot of elk, and it's taken years of experience to figure out different areas and which ones work best.
I love hunting New Mexico. I've hunted it probably 6 times now, taken 3 nice bulls down here. There's always good action. Some areas are high elevation, some aren't, but it's always good terrain for hunting elk. Decided to just stop and listen for a little while, and now we hear 2 bulls down in here. It's one of the most valuable things you can do is just stop and listen. They'll tell you where they are.
Right. Sounded like a pretty good bull. He got a pretty good growl to him.
Yeah.
I'm almost 100% we got 2 bulls in there. They might have just answered each other real quick, so.
Man, that's beautiful.
It is. Get you set up about 50 yards up there. Get you a good spot where you can get a couple of shines. I'm gonna come right back here. See if he's not gonna come in silent. He might come in just to kind of check it out. I mean, if he was that short horn, he shouldn't have been growling. What we heard doesn't match what you saw, so
Yeah.
I would say it's probably a satellite bull within the area that kind of snuck in on us.
But
but he was uppity before he even came down the hill, so I think he either got a swirl or something, but he never looked at us.
Dominic, our guide, took us up into an area where we did a little bit of calling. It was kind of quiet that morning, but we did hear one bull below us, and we decided to do a little setup. Got down on this little bottom, and the bull did show up, but he was a little nervous. He was kind of running around a little bit there. He was just a small bull, but it was good to have one come in right away in the first setup.
This segment of Bowhunter is brought to you by Hoyt.
We're looking at the heat of the day coming in, or if we're gonna hunt wallows in the evening, or if we're gonna run and gun. So there's a lot of different things that go through our mind throughout the hunt or even throughout the day. And I think sometimes people find us in a blank stare and they have no ideas that we're thinking about things for the next couple of days, even as we're hunting.
We went out in the afternoon and sat in a water hole up at the end of this little draw, and it was a nice deep draw, fairly secluded, so the elk would feel comfortable coming in. Got in the blind about 3:30, and within 20 minutes, a 4-point bull come in, real small, short rack, but he came right in, swam around, gave us a nice little show. It was pretty fun to watch. Shortly after that, a young cow came in, did the same thing, got to within about 15 yards of the blind out in the water. So we knew that our wind was good. We had an ozonic set up, and there was a lot of swirling going on, but neither one of them had any idea we were there, so we knew we were covered. And then we heard a bull bugling up on the ridge beside us, and there was supposed to be a big bull in that area, a big 6x6, and he would bugle every now and then, but then he eventually worked down the ridge and away from us. And then later in the day, we had another 4-point bull come in with a cow, and they came right into the water. So great first day, a lot of action. It's fun to see elk like that and that kind of in their natural habitat doing what elk do.
We got Vince Viegel with us today, so we're gonna kind of tag team these elk. We got 2 guys gonna be calling for us, so we're just trying to locate some goals this morning.
On this morning, we hunted some lower ground and immediately got a response to our calling. After edging a bit closer, I set up in a spot with multiple shooting lanes, and Vince and Dominic dropped back to do the calling. The bull we heard bugling wasn't the first to show up. A young raghorn satellite bull walked in looking for love in all the wrong places.
Too small.
This was a real good example of what happens when you stay perfectly still. We knew we didn't want to kill this bull, so we just sat perfectly still and let him come as close as he could. And he stood there at 11 yards and looked around. And another example of what you can learn from this encounter is that when this happens to you, if you're gonna take that bull, you have to do something very quickly because the wind is always swirling in the high country, and sooner or later, they're gonna pick up your scent. And that's exactly what happened with this bull. Finally got a little whiff and he took off.
That was good stuff right there, 11 yards. And that just goes to show you, if you're perfectly still, they cannot pick you out. Exactly. And we're sitting right there. There's nothing between us. But we're perfectly still, and he did not pick us out.
All right, Crow, we're gonna set you up a blind here. We got a lot of bulls that are using this rig right here, and sometimes they bed up in here, so.
Yeah.
Put you right in the middle and see if the plan can come together tonight.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like we got the wind was kind of consistent, but about as consistent as it can be, but it seems to be going that way, so water hole's not too big. All right. Well, we had 2 bulls going this morning. One we called right in to 11 yards, and you saw that action. He was a little too small. But there was another bull in the distance bugling, and we kind of had it in our mind that he was a herd bull. And he was a bigger sounding bull, although that's never guaranteed. But he was heading this direction towards this water hole, and we decided, we knew we were going to hunt this water hole tonight, so we decided not to push him. So we believe he's bedded somewhere up here behind us. And we're hoping that that herd will come in here. Maybe the cows will drag him down in here before it gets dark. The bull hung back, real white antlers, kind of strange looking set of antlers on him. But he hung back and let the cows drink, and then we basically ran out of daylight. We went and checked out another area this morning, and there was absolutely no sign in there, so we're back where we were. And we heard a bull down in here and some cow talk. It's a nice, cool morning. It's fairly calm, so we're gonna make a move on them. Within minutes of doing some blind cow calling, we heard what sounded like a stampede coming our way. It was a gang of punks, 4 spiked bulls running toward what they thought was a cow. 2 of the youngsters walked out in front of us at less than 10 yards. They looked very tasty, but they were safe from us. When we got to the top of the ridge, we did some more soft calling. With no response, we decided to amp things up. Vince and I split up about 40 yards apart and started bugling at each other. We were loud and obnoxious, emulating a confrontation between 2 bulls. Then we went silent. As we contemplated what to do next, a bull screamed below us, as if wondering where the party went. It was time to move.
Let's get his temperature right here, because this is gonna write more decent shooting lanes in there.
Yeah, right. This thing looks like it's pretty thick down there. This is perfect.
I think so. He's gonna come in. If not, we'll keep pushing.
He sounds like he might be bedded, but
Yeah. We'll wake him up. And I felt at that moment that I challenged him and chuckled was actually about the time we heard him get up and start making his way to us. So then I reverted back to the cow calls and sounding like a herd, and actually reverted. At one point, we didn't know where he was at. So I reverted and said, hey, I'm gonna just do a young bull bugle, you know, not to challenge him and scare him off, but do a young bull bugle to entice him to come out, see who's with all these cows and what's going on basically in his living room.
So this is where things got really interesting. Our assumption was that he was bedded, heard all the bugling and all the screaming when we were having our little party up there, and then when it quit, he wanted to know where everybody went. And that's when he sounded off, and that was his mistake. We kind of were standing around discussing what to do next, and off in the distance to the northwest, we heard a bull bugle.
The one thing that the bull did do is cooperate with us and kind of let us know where he was at. And my biggest priority was getting shooting lanes. You know, that's the biggest thing when you're in that thick stuff, is find an area where you can create shooting lanes for the hunter and try to call him into that.
And he could call very, very softly, and that bull answered. And that was a big indicator for us that we hadn't seen up to that point.
They'll hear all this activity and then wonder what happened when it went quiet. And that gave up his location. And we put our experience to use, did some really soft cow calling, got him out of his bed. We pulled him in, 19 yards or so.
Our assumption was that he was bedded, heard all the bugling and all the screaming when we were having our little party up there. And then when it quit, He wanted to know where everybody went. And that's when he sounded off, and that was his mistake. Finally, the bull walks out around 40 yards, and he's heading right toward us. And he stops, bugles once, and then he's coming right at us. So I'm preparing for a frontal shot, which is a deadly shot if you take it, it's under 20 yards. That was the 5th bull I've taken with a frontal shot. I prefer straight on rather than the angle of that shot, but it's just as deadly. In this case, my 550 grain arrow hit the tip of the opposite elbow, which accounted for the lack of a pass-through. However, the broadhead severed the major arteries above the heart. This shot is lethal, but should only be attempted if it is under 20 yards.
You know, so I'm up there blind calling. You know, I can't see what's going on, but I'm trying to visualize by Vince's calling and what the elk is doing. I'm trying to visualize as it's unfolding.
Dominic made the perfect call for not knowing what was going on down below to really, you know, everything fell into place with that one call to turn the elk so the shot could happen. And it's a sense of accomplishment when all the things come together just right.
And you guys, he was starting to drift this way, and you guys started moving back that way. It was perfectly executed in the way you made him, because now he had to come this way.
Look at the blood.
Got that, baby.
He's toast. It was absolutely a masterful job of calling that bull. We talked to him, told him everything he wanted to hear, and I do believe he felt he could come up there and take those cows away from that young, whiny bull. And great experience. One of my favorite things in all of bow hunting is to take an elk in a calling situation where they come in like that. Absolutely outstanding.
Oh my gosh.
He took a serious nosedive there, didn't he? Yeah, and he was slightly quartering, so the shot is the base of the dark mane, just to the left side a little bit.
Good shooting there.
Pretty good gash in there.
Very good.
Thanks, man.
Very nice.
Thanks. He's a beast.
Nice.
Appreciate that.
Bow hunting for elk is here, and all other bow hunting is right down in this area somewhere. There's just nothing compares to having a bull elk bugling at close range, and you're trying to get close to him with a bow and arrow. I'd like to thank Bow Hunting Safari Consultants for hooking me up with Vince and Dominic. And if you'd like to hunt New Mexico, you can find their contact information at bowhunter.com. Thanks for being here, and we hope to see you next week.